Welcome to the deep dive, the shortcut to being truly well-informed. We take that mountain of articles, research, and data, and we distill it all down into the insights you really need.
And today, we're diving deep into something that I think causes almost universal anxiety. It's that secret fear that you might be perceived as, well, boring.
Yeah, oh, I think we all know that feeling. Maybe you're in a meeting, you have a brilliant idea, but you just can't seem to break through the noise.
Or you're telling a story and you see it.
The eyes glazing over.
Exactly. The glance at the phone. And that feeling of invisibility, it's corrosive. It leads so many of us to completely the wrong conclusion, that we are inherently dull.
But we're here to tell you that's almost certainly false. Based on decades of social psychology and communication science, you have a rich inner world. You have valuable ideas.
The problem isn't your personality. It's a lack of specific trainable skills. The tools you need to get that richness from your head out into the world.
So in this deep dive, we're going to help you move from being, a good idea guarded by poor delivery to being an effective, memorable, and an engaging speaker.
Our mission is, well, it's threefold. First, we're going to pinpoint the 3 big skill gaps that get mistaken for being boring. Then we'll give you the science-backed techniques to improve engagement, like right away.
And most importantly, we're framing this as a soft skill. It's not some innate talent. It's a craft you can learn. By the end of this, you'll have a blueprint for mastering interaction, narrative, and delivery.
Let's start with the biggest error of all, the one that trips almost everyone up.
Okay, so skill number 1, moving from monologue to dialogue. This is where people go wrong first, isn't it? They speak at you.
They speak at you, not with you. And that creates this immediate disconnect. You're not a participant in the conversation. You're just an audience member waiting for the show to be over. And the research on this is really clear. It fundamentally breaks the rules of how we build relationships.
So what's the science behind that? Why does that one-way street just not work?
Well, if you look at the classic research, like the theory of social penetration from Altman and Taylor back in the 70s, connection isn't built by one person just broadcasting how great they are.
Right.
It's built through this gradual, reciprocal exchange of information. They called it self-disclosure.
So it's kind of like peeling an onion together. You share a layer, then I share a layer.
Precisely. The theory is that relationships deepen in 2 ways. Depth, so how personal the information is, and breadth, how many topics you cover. If you're just monologuing, you might be covering breadth, but you're blocking the exchange needed for any real depth. You're short-circuiting the whole bonding process.
So the lesson here isn't about being interesting enough to hold the floor by yourself.
Not at all. It's about being skilled enough to share the floor and build that rapport. If only one person is talking, it's not a shared experience, it's a performance. And audiences get tired.
Which brings us to the skill to develop, mastering the formulation of questions. And I think this is where people get nervous. It can feel a bit clunky.
It can, especially if you're just asking lazy, closed questions. Did you enjoy the trip?
Yeah, you just get a yes or a no, end of conversation.
It's a dead end.
Yeah.
Or worse, it puts all the pressure on the other person to come up with a whole new topic.
Right. But on the other hand, if you just start firing off open-ended questions, you can sound like you're conducting an interview or an interrogation. That's just as bad as a monologue.
That's the key subtlety here. The solution isn't just asking open questions. It's asking active listening follow-up questions. You have to prove you actually heard what they just said.
Okay, can you give us a concrete example? Show us that transformation.
Sure. Let's say someone tells you they just finished a really tough project. A closed question is, are you glad it's over?
Yep, boring.
An open question is a bit better. What was the biggest challenge you faced? But a true active listening question would be something like, you mentioned the team coordination was the hardest part. What specific tool did you end up using to finally break through that deadlock?
Ah, I see the difference there. That last one forces them to go deeper, but it also proves you were listening to the details. And it forces you to stop planning what you're going to say next.
Exactly. It creates this feedback loop of respect. You're signaling what you said matters, and I want to know more. And that, ironically, makes you incredibly interesting.
Okay, so skill 1 is about creating the space. What about what we put into that space?
That brings us right to skill 2.
So we've made it a dialogue, we're sharing the floor. But what if the stuff you're sharing still feels, flat? This is skill 2, the art of storytelling.
And this is where the neuroscience gets really fascinating. It shows us exactly why bullet points and fact dumps just fail to connect. Our brains are, fundamentally wired for narrative.
Okay, break that down for me. What is actually happening in the brain when we hear a story versus when we just hear, say, a list of facts?
It's a huge difference. When you hear dry data, you really only activate a couple of small language processing spots in the brain, Wernicke's and Broca's areas. You're processing information, sure, but nothing is sticking. There's no emotion,
It's just cognitive work.
purely.
Why?
But when you wrap that same information in a story, the brain lights up like a Christmas tree. Dr. Paul Zakshy's research is fantastic on this. Storytelling activates all these different sensory regions. If you describe walking, the motor cortex fires up.
So you're not just hearing it, your brain is sort of simulating the experience.
You are living it, neurologically speaking,
Yeah.
and the chemistry is just as amazing. A good story causes the brain to release oxytocin.
It's a bonding hormone.
Exactly. The neurochemical for trust, for empathy, for social connection. So when you tell a story, you're not just conveying facts. You are literally creating a chemical bond with your listener. You're sharing an experience, not just data.
Wow. Okay, so the skill here isn't about being some great novelist. It's about using a simple structure.
Just a simple dramatic structure. And you can apply this to anything. A project update, what you did on the weekend, anything. It just needs 3 parts.
Let's walk through that 3-part framework.
First, you have the setup, the before state. You're setting the scene, the context. So for a project pitch, you'd say something like, 3 months ago, our sales funnel was losing 40% of users at the final step, and our budget was totally frozen. You establish the stakes.
Then you need the conflict. This is the problem, the tension. This is what makes the audience care. Following that example, and after 2 weeks of trying to fix it, we still couldn't figure out where the bug was, putting the entire quarterly launch at risk.
That tension is absolutely key. And then, finally, you give them the resolution, the aha moment, the successful outcome or the lesson learned.
And that's when we realized we were overcomplicating things. We stripped the code down to 3 simple functions, and what we learned was incredible. Simplicity wins. Our conversion rate jumped 18%.
C. Setup, conflict resolution. It gives your listener an emotional roadmap. They're not just remembering the 18%, they're remembering the journey you took to get there.
Okay, so we've covered the what, the narrative, and the how, the interaction. But even the best story can fall flat if the delivery is, well, boring. Which brings us to skill 3, delivery. The body and the voice.
Right. Your body and your voice are these massive amplifiers, and if they contradict your words, people will always believe your body.
Let's talk about the famous 55387 rule. It gets thrown around a lot, but I think it's often misunderstood.
It really is. It comes from research by Dr. Albert Mehrabian, and the context is crucial. He found that when you're communicating feelings or attitudes like excitement or boredom or confidence, the actual words you use only account for about 7% of the impact.
Only 7%.
The other 93% is nonverbal. Your tone of voice is 38%, and your body language is a massive 55%.
Now, to be clear, this doesn't mean that if I'm explaining a financial report, the numbers only matter 7% of the time.
It's exactly right. For neutral facts, the words matter most. But being boring is fundamentally about the attitude you're conveying. If you say, I'm so excited about this, but 93% of your message, your flat tone, your slumped shoulders is screaming, I'm bored, guess which message lands?
The 93%. Okay, this feels like the quickest fix then. You can actively choose to amplify your message. Let's start with the 38% vocalization.
The enemy is monotone. A monotone voice is predictable, it requires almost no cognitive effort from the listener, and so the brain just tunes it out.
So we need variation. We need things like the dramatic pause, just waiting a second or two right before your key point. It builds suspense.
It does. And you need to vary your volume. You can whisper a key detail to draw people in, make it feel confidential, and then you speak more loudly to convey passion for the conclusion. Rhythm, too. Speed up a little when you describe the conflict, the action, and then slow right down for the big takeaway.
Okay, and then the big one, the 55%, body language. This is where so many people signal disinterest without even realizing it.
It starts with an open posture. No crossed arms, no crossed legs. Those are physical barriers. And you need to use eye contact. Not a stare down, but intermittent, genuine connection. Avoiding it entirely just reads as, I don't care, or even I'm not being honest.
And your gestures have to match your words, right? The body has to agree with the mouth.
They have to reinforce them. If you're talking about a big, complex idea, your hands should show that. If you're talking about a simple, clear solution, your hands can come together to a single point.
When all 3 of those things, the interaction, the narrative, and the delivery are all working together, that's when you become truly memorable.
That's it. You become undeniable.
So if we pull this all together, the conclusion is actually really empowering, being interesting. It's not a personality trait you're born with, it's a craft. That label, boring, it's just a placeholder for a skill gap in 3 very specific areas.
Let's just quickly recap those 3 areas so you know exactly where to put your energy this week. First, interaction. That's about getting out of broadcast mode and into dialogue by mastering that active listening follow-up question.
Second, narrative. Structuring your ideas with a setup, a conflict, and a resolution to create an emotional connection, not just a data transfer.
And third, delivery. Using your voice and your body as amplifiers. Varying your tone, your pace, and keeping your body language open and illustrative. Making sure that 93% is on your side.
When you focus on these, you stop trying to just entertain people. You start actually connecting with them. You move beyond just being less boring, and you become a much more powerful communicator.
And we want you to leave with an immediate action plan. So we've got 3 challenges for you, things you can start doing today.
Okay, challenge number 1, the curious question challenge. This one takes a bit of courage. In your very next conversation, for every one thought you share, you have to ask 2 open follow-up questions about what the other person said. Force yourself to make them the center of the dialogue.
Yeah, the hard part here is fighting your own impatience.
Yeah.
We all want to jump in with our own story. This forces you to slow down and actually listen.
Challenge number 2, the 3-part story challenge. I like this one. Take a totally mundane task from your week, answering an email, fixing something, going to the grocery store. Mentally reframe it using setup, conflict resolution. Then tell that story to a friend.
You'll be amazed. Even the story of waiting in line at the post office can be engaging if you set the scene. The setup, introduce a problem, the conflict, and share the outcome, the resolution. It's about practicing the structure until it feels natural.
And finally, challenge number 3, the powerful pause challenge. This is all about delivery. Sometime today, when you're talking to someone, pause for 2 full seconds right before you say the most important word in your sentence. For example, the single biggest takeaway was pause, simplicity.
Just feel the emphasis that word gets. It's such a simple trick, but it instantly shatters a monotone pattern and snaps your listener's attention right back to you.
Because at the end of the day, this isn't about becoming a louder performer. It's about equipping yourself with the right microphone, so to speak, so that your ideas and your genuine self can finally be heard.
The world is waiting to hear what you have to say.
So go out there and start talking. Thanks for diving deep with us. We'll see you next time.